At my age of 33, I married Alex, a man of 35 years at the time, and that was 8 years ago. About 5 years after we were married, my life was marred by a profound loss. My mother passed away. This event occurred shortly after I brought our second child into the world. The loss of my mother caused me depression, the echoes of which did not let go for a long time. During this difficult period, which lasted about 6 months, my sister Sally, who was 28 at the time, and I stayed at my mom's house. Alex and Sally gave me invaluable support, helping me through those difficult times and gradually getting my life back on track. After a while, when circumstances seemed less bleak, we decided to return to our normal lifestyle, and about 2 years ago, we settled back into our home. We recently celebrated another anniversary of our life together by deciding to have a celebration at home, to which Sally was also invited. However, what was supposed to be a joyous evening was marred by conflict. I witnessed an argument between Alex and Sally, after which my sister abruptly left. My excitement intensified when, in an attempt to discover the cause of their disagreement, I learned from Alex about his infidelity with Sally at a time when I was struggling with depression. Alex confessed that he felt alone and lost, not knowing how to deal with the situation and my condition, which he said had turned me into a shell devoid of emotion. Sally became a comfort to him, and their shared grief led to an emotional bonding, which later developed into a physical connection after Sally kissed him. The situation escalated when Sally suggested a divorce so they could be together, but Alex, realizing the mistake and gripped by fear, decided to end their relationship. After the party, a disappointed and hurt Sally left, accusing him of using and betraying her. The conversation culminated in my decision to divorce, after which Alex left our home, and we were left divided by this bitter experience for a long time. After I confronted Sally, she tried to pour out her feelings, started crying, and wished for an explanation. However, unable to find the strength to listen, I cut the conversation short and retreated, deciding to cease any contact with her for the time being. At this time, my children were acutely experiencing the absence of their father, especially the eldest, who would not stop asking about him. Working, I found it difficult to care for them alone. Divorce only seemed to make things worse, both financially and emotionally. Despite everything, I knew Alex was a wonderful father. It was this understanding and the pain the children felt that drove my decision not to go through with the divorce. Although no forgiveness was forthcoming, I contemplated the possibility of leaving in the future if the children felt unhappy. We began to work together for the children's well-being in an effort to bring a sense of normalcy and happiness back into the family. Recently, Sally, through a mutual friend, requested a meeting where she expressed her regret for everything that had happened and informed me of her intentions to marry. She suggested that I forget the past and become close again, even offering me the role of maid of honor. At such an offer, I couldn't help laughing and left the meeting, leaving Sally bewildered. Now Sally reproaches me with cruelty, citing that by taking Alex back, I am supposedly treating her unfairly. She argues that I should forgive and forget the past because we are each other's only family. But I am unwilling to resume the relationship based on the depth of the pain she has caused. Her actions have left a deep mark, for I have always loved her like a sister. Now I find myself confused, wondering if I am really being unreasonable by not forgiving Sally, despite being able to accept Alex back into the family. Doubting that you did the wrong thing by severing your relationship with your sister doesn't make you stupid. However, when thinking about the possibility of securing a happier future for yourself, it's worth remembering everyone's right to a better life. You have the right to strive for changes that will bring fulfillment, if that's what you desire deep down. As you consider spending the next decades in your current state, it's important to realize that excuses can be an obstacle to your own well-being and the happiness of your children, who deserve to see an example of courage and the ability to make a difference. Children have amazing intuition and can sense much more than we sometimes realize. Their well-being depends not only on the physical presence of their parents nearby, but also on the general atmosphere in the family. Divorce does not always mean separation from children. Joint custody, living in different homes, can be the best solution, allowing children to maintain a warm relationship with both parents. Being a good father and being a bad spouse are not mutually exclusive, and it's important to distinguish between these aspects of a relationship. Toward your sister, you have no obligation other than to rethink the situation you find yourself in. It is important to realize that the responsibility for what happened is not only on your sister, but also on your husband. Staying in a marriage for the sake of the children does not always have the desired outcome and can compromise the lessons and examples we want to pass on to our children. It is important to reflect on the importance we place on family roles and the behaviors we model in front of our children, especially when it comes to raising girls. Setting an example of tolerance for disrespect and mistreatment can have far-reaching consequences. Remember that everyone has the right to the pursuit of happiness and respect in any relationship, and that starts with respecting yourself and your decisions. I have made it clear to my husband with complete openness that forgiveness remains outside the realm of what is achievable for me for now. The possibility of forgiveness in the future has not been ruled out, but it seems unlikely at this time. I clearly recognize that to deprive him of his role as a father would be unfair, given our shared love for our children. My position is honest. I'm not giving him any illusions about a possible reunion. Update: in terms of our children's well-being, I am determined to closely monitor their emotional state. If at some point I see that the current situation is doing them more harm than good, I would be willing to consider joint custody, but in different homes. For now, I've decided to wait, letting the kids grow up and make better sense of what's going on around them. For now, they are content and happy to have both parents around. Even if I can ever find the strength to forgive my husband, I realize that our journey together as spouses is over. The vision of him as my husband is gone, and I can no longer share life with him as before. Next story. My sister Jen, who is 28, and I, a year younger, grew up in a lower middle-class family. Our parents worked hard to provide us with everything we needed. So after we both successfully completed university, choosing the same major and department, we promised ourselves that we would take them out to nice restaurants. We decided to do this on a monthly basis, taking turns taking care of the expenses and supporting them in every way we could. In my final year of university, I met my future husband Tom, who was 33 years old at the time. Tom was the only child in a family of 2 doctors and worked as a biomedical engineer. He loved his parents immensely. We married last year after 2 years of engagement. During the entire time we were engaged, Tom generously paid for our outings together, arranging trips for my family to the most scenic places. He had a live-for-today attitude that ensured we always had memorable times together. My sister Jen, on the other hand, preferred to do what she loved. Although her salary could have been higher, she never faced financial difficulties and could always afford to have a family dinner. However, last year marked a change. Jen decided to continue her education and pursue a degree, which temporarily cut off her income. Tom and I assured her that monthly family dinners would continue, and we were happy to cover all expenses. About 9 months ago, Jen began dating Rick, a 29-year-old man who worked at the same job as her but held a higher position. 5 months into the relationship, Jen asked if Rick could join our family dinners. We happily agreed. Since Rick had become a part of our tradition, the choice of restaurants had come to depend on my parents' culinary preferences, which meant avoiding places that were too extravagant. Rick expressed his desire to foot the next dinner bill, admiring the way Tom and I regularly picked up the tab. Everyone agreed, and my mom picked out a wonderful restaurant for our next meeting. During dinner, I noticed that Rick and Jen seemed agitated, especially as the time for payment approached. Jen privately asked me if I could lend her some money, but I offered to pay for everyone. She objected, saying that it would embarrass Rick since he had expressed his own desire to pay for dinner. I suggested a compromise. Rick could pay the bill with his credit card, and I would wire him the money later. After dinner and sending his parents home, Rick admitted that he hadn't expected such an expensive dinner and expressed surprise at our willingness to spend so much money on one meal. Tom pointed out that if Rick felt out of place because of the prices, he should have mentioned it, and we could have chosen another place. In response, Rick accused us of emphasizing his financial situation, saying that he would rather be in debt than accept our help. Tom, though annoyed, just drove me home. Later, Jen called me and pointed out my inattention to the financial situation, rebuking me for not asking my mom to pick a less expensive place for dinner. She emphasized that if Tom and I considered current restaurants to be mid-priced, we were far from understanding reality. Jen added that Rick was also angry at her for what he thought was her embarrassing him by making him look unable to pay for dinner. Your sister seems to be at the epicenter of it all. It may seem surprising, but she was probably aware of her partner's sensitivities. This person is facing issues with her socioeconomic status and seems to prefer to live in debt. It is important to note that she must have noticed these warning signs. She has been an active participant in these dinners from the beginning, demonstrating that in your relationship with your parents and in life in general, you both strive for equality despite the difference in financial status. She could convey to him the realization that his desire to impress, coupled with pride, played no small part in the situation. Rick, a 29-year-old successful young man, somehow expects Tom to pay his expenses, despite his ability to earn his own money. If Rick is unable to afford certain expenses and it doesn't bother him enough to read the prices at the restaurant in advance, he should have reconsidered and recognized the situation. His determination not to lose face despite the obvious state of affairs is surprising. It's worth reflecting on what it really means to be independent and how that relates to financial responsibility. Rick's situation of striving for the best with limited resources raises questions about values and priorities. In this context, the responsibility for the decision rests not only with you, but also with your sister and her partner, who must deal with these questions together. Now I want to tell a different story. I am 56 years old and my daughter is 28. We have a difficult relationship. I admit that I am responsible for the situation. Once when she shared her homosexuality with me, I failed to respond appropriately. While I didn't kick her out the door or do anything of the sort, the words I spoke at the time were far from supportive. I said some horrible things that changed our wonderful relationship forever. As a consequence, we basically stopped communicating. It was 2 years after she left home when my husband woke me up, prompting me to reflect and begin to work on myself, my biases, and my understanding of what was going on. However, by then our relationship had already been severely damaged by my actions. I apologized to her for my words, and we had a frank conversation. She told me that after leaving home she had decided to cut off all contact with me because, despite my apologies, she could no longer trust me the way she used to. I accepted her decision, and after she went to college, she cut our communication by 95%. I offered to try to repair the relationship through going to therapy together, but she refused. I respected her choice. We kept in touch during my husband's life, as she attended graduation parties, even after his passing. In the past 3 years, we had only spoken 3 times. She did not want communication, and I respected her decision, remembering my mistakes. 2 weeks ago, I was in a car accident that left me with 2 broken ribs, damage to my arm, and several scratches on my body. Despite this, I am successfully recovering and getting the care I need at home. I did not inform my daughter since we do not communicate and she lives 8 hours away from me. Yesterday, she called me to see if it was true that I had been in an accident. As soon as I confirmed, she began to voice her displeasure, pointing out that she shouldn't have to find out such things from her cousin. However, I was frank with her, admitting that we hadn't spoken in months, almost a full year. I expressed respect for her interest in my condition. Although I assumed that the subject would not be of interest to her, she expressed the opinion that despite our lack of communication, I still had to let her know what had happened because she was my daughter and the only close relative. She was upset with my decision to keep this information from her. The next day, I received a bag from her from the pharmacy with painkillers and other necessary medications, indicating that she cared despite everything that had happened. I feel uncomfortable with the situation but continue to honor her request to keep my distance, which makes me question my actions. By refusing to pay attention to the past and evaluating the situation solely in the context of the present, it can be argued that your daughter is not a reckless person. This person is among those who prefer to maintain a long-distance relationship. For many years, her wishes have been met with respect, with the distance maintained at her own request. Therefore, it seems unreasonable to blame someone for honoring requests coming from herself. To blame someone for showing respect for her wishes seems unfair. Changing the rules of the game on her part and then adopting the position of the aggrieved person gives the impression that no satisfactory outcome can be reached in this situation. It seems that whatever action is chosen, whether it is honoring her request for non-contact or attempting to contact her after indications to the contrary, is perceived negatively. If no attempt is made to connect, there is an accusation of an inability to read minds and understand what kind of interaction would be acceptable to her at the time. The mishap with the daughter, who may have experienced fear after the accident and now regrets the resulting estrangement in the relationship, adds to the complexity. Her discomfort may be due not only to personal experiences, but also to a reaction to information received from her cousin. The discomfort arose from the realization that she was unaware of important events in her mother's life. The realization of this point came to her after talking to her cousin about the incident. In such a situation, it is appropriate to send a thank you letter expressing appreciation for her concern. In the letter, you can mention that in the event of other unforeseen circumstances, you will make them known, at which time it would be appropriate to resume communication. It is important not to expect an instant change or resolution to the situation because, despite possible mistakes on both sides, the behavior of everyone involved has a place and deserves attention. My next story. My girlfriend has a practical mindset. Her approach to cars and most things remains unfamiliar to me. In turn, I am a car enthusiast, have a passion for mechanics, and am currently working on my BMW 535i. My girlfriend owns a 2015 Toyota RAV4, which she purchased new. I once made a joke about her car, calling it unattractive, which to my surprise, caused her some serious annoyance. I didn't expect my joke to be taken so personally. My parents live in a mountainous area. My mom recently had to have her tonsils removed after a series of infections. I had planned to visit them, but the journey was complicated by snowfall and frozen roads, and my car is rear-wheel drive. Consequently, I offered the girl to trade cars for the duration of my visit, but she declined. When I asked her the reason for this decision, she recalled my joke. Despite the fact that I hadn't brought up the subject in months, her reaction seemed unexpected. The girl insisted and advised me to rent a car if the need to travel was so great. Given the high last-minute cost of renting, about $150 per day, I offered her $100 for the opportunity to use her car for the weekend. However, my offer was declined. I realized that my irony about her car may have been taken more seriously than I intended, and now realize that I may have acted unwisely in causing such a reaction. Your joke about her car hurt her feelings, which apparently left a deep mark because you did not properly apologize. Phrases like "it was just a joke," "honey, you shouldn't take it so seriously" are not a true apology. Thus, she continues to hold a grudge. When you wanted to use her car, she, in your opinion, used the moment to take revenge for disrespecting her property. She has the right to refuse your request, and that is her full right. Now, in the face of having to pay $300 for a rental car, you think this is unreasonable. However, you still have not offered a sincere apology. Instead, you have accused her of being childish and unreasonable, which has only exacerbated the problem by becoming part of a strategy of avoiding responsibility for your words and actions. You haven't made a joke about it in months, but that's no substitute for a real apology. Now that your BMW is failing to handle winter conditions, the irony of the situation is that you need the car you once criticized. Maybe it's time to get down off your high horse and offer a sincere apology. Your girlfriend purchased this automobile and labored to pay for it. No doubt she is proud of her acquisition. Your jokes about her car may have seemed disrespectful. Understanding and respecting her feelings and accomplishments may be the first step to restoring rapport. A story that really surprised me. In my 21s, I, a girl, have been faced with a skin condition called vitiligo. It affects more than half of my body. Over time, I have learned to accept the condition. I also have noticeable scars. They do not add to my beauty. However, I don't seek to hide them. I'm satisfied with my appearance. I don't want to hide anything from myself. This story has to do with an upcoming wedding. My cousin Dan, who is 27, is going to marry Laura, who is 26. I became friends with Laura through Dan. She has always treated me with kindness, not caring about my looks. When she asked me to be a bridesmaid, I happily agreed. One day, she asked me about the possibility of hiding my scars. I was somewhat upset by her request, but eventually agreed. Last fall, a turning point happened. Laura asked me to also cover up my skin condition at a wedding. This put me in the position of wearing a completely different outfit or using concealer on 60% of my body throughout the day. Both options seemed unacceptable to me. I explained to Laura that I couldn't honor her request. She insisted that I find a solution, not wanting me to distract the guests. I tried to appease her by refusing to be a bridesmaid and deciding to attend the wedding as a regular guest. But even in that status, Laura demanded that I disguise myself. My refusal led to a decision not to attend the gala at all. Dan tried to persuade Laura to soften her stance. Most of those around me supported my decision. However, some advise me to abandon my principles for a day for the sake of a peaceful celebration. Darling, could you imagine yourself at a wedding completely dressed head to toe in a sheet with neatly cut eye holes? It would create the illusion of a real ghost. However, choose an off-white sheet so that there is no confusion with the bride's outfit. Imagine how it looks, unusual and daring. I mean, you're obviously far from being stupid. If I were in Dan's shoes, perhaps I would reconsider my decision to get married. Who would want to tie their life to a man who judges by looks, chases titles, and is not known for kindness? My answer would be an astronaut outfit complete with a reflective helmet. Let's not forget the personal boundaries and health issues that each of us live with on a daily basis. This is no place for bird flights of fancy and false pride. When a guest expresses themselves, it is not meant to be pushy, but rather emphasizes their respect for their own individuality. No one should demand a change in your appearance for the sake of the event alone. As you discover new facts about your cousin and his chosen one, feel free to share those discoveries. And if someone questions why you chose not to attend the event, don't hesitate to share your thoughts. It's unfortunate to realize that you had to face this situation,